The Spiritual Journey of Tom Gilliland. You there? Okay, that's my audience. To begin with, I was raised as a Catholic in an Irish family. We went to church sporadically during my childhood. I made my first communion, my confirmation, and then I was married, and we continued to go to Catholic school until my kids were in their young teens. Then we became bored with the Catholic Church. The sermons, they just seemed too scripted. It was the same thing year after year with no variation. So we decided to look into a Christian church. We went to a large church in West Covina. At the beginning, we enjoyed the church. The pastor was very articulate and passionate and very engaging about the word and preaching the gospel to the church. After a few years, it seems like the message had changed. The pastor became more about himself. You know, look at me, what I have, what I've done. You know, a big fancy house, driving a Mercedes for him and his wife. You know, even the junior pastors were leaving the church. The choir pastor, who we really enjoyed, decided to leave. He went to South Carolina. Even the old brother branched off and got his own church. So it just seemed like, you know, with the pastor, you know, he would come in and instead of preaching the word, he would show videos or photos of what he had done on vacation. And, you know, everybody enjoys a nice vacation, but it seemed like he was hobnobbing with the rich and just rubbing it into the church. In fact, I sat at a sermon one time with my son, and he came over and shook my hand like it was a big deal, like it was an honor to shake his hand. And I'm thinking, well, what's going on here? You know, it seemed like the poor people in the church or the common folk were overlooked, that if you weren't rich and prosperous, that he wasn't preaching to you. So we decided, you know, enough of this, we're going to branch off. We're going to a smaller church, and we actually followed one of the junior pastors to a small church in Duarte. It was a little bit farther to travel, but we enjoyed there. It was more of a family atmosphere going with a smaller church. We really enjoyed it. My mother-in-law and father-in-law went to this church. And like I said, with the family atmosphere, being a small church, it was really interesting. Unfortunately, we had to move venues. The church had lost their lease there, so they were looking for another place. We ended up in the YMCA for a year. And then we finally found a location in Glendora, right down the street from us. We said, hey, this is awesome. But this pastor, it seemed like he was doing the same thing the pastor from the previous church did. He was getting his family members involved in the church. His daughter became the choir master. His son was doing communications. His wife was running the women's choir, or the women's committee. And then we noticed that a lot of the elders in the church were leaving, and we couldn't understand why. You know, and even the word that the pastor was teaching, it changed. Like, it seemed like every sermon or every other sermon, every time we showed up, he was crying in front of the congregation. You know, we didn't understand what was going on. He was really losing our interest in the church. So we decided, you know, it was time to move on and find another church. So we tried a variety of churches in San Dimas, Laverne, Glendora, and we finally came upon Foothill Community Church. Some of our neighbors had gone to this church. They seemed very impressed with it, so we went to it. The pastor was very engaging. He incorporated the congregation in his sermons. Everyone got up, shook hands, introduced themselves. You know, and we thought that this was a great place to be, especially with all of our family and friends there. So we're continuing on in that church right now. The senior pastor, like I said, is very engaging. He preaches the word. He makes it so we understand the word that he's preaching. Because in some of the other churches, we'd go home afterwards, my wife and I, and we're saying, well, I heard the sermon today, but I didn't understand what he was saying. And this guy made it more common. It was easier to understand. We're happy at this church, and hopefully we'll be able to engage and stay with this church for a long time to come. So So this is my journey so far. Hopefully it will continue and go on for the rest of my life. Thank you very much for enjoying the spiritual journey of my church. Thank you and have a nice day.